Before we dive into today's episode, I want to give a quick disclaimer. This conversation touches on raw emotions. There may also be some strong language as we navigate through deeply personal topics. If you're in a tender place, or if these themes feel overwhelming, please take care of yourself. Listen when you're ready, or feel free to skip this episode if needed. My goal is to hold space for real, honest, raw conversations, and I appreciate you being here with us. Hi, this is Amanda, and welcome back to Soul Stories. Today's guest has walked through fire more than once and emerged with a perspective that's as rare as it is powerful. For privacy reasons, she's chosen to remain anonymous, but what she shares with us today is anything but hidden. From facing the life-altering diagnosis of leukemia to navigating the deeply personal journey of gender transition, her story is one of resilience, rebirth, and radical self-acceptance. This is a conversation about identity, survival, and what it means to keep choosing yourself, even when the world doesn't make it easy. I'm honored that she trusted Soul Stories with her truth. Thank you so much for sharing this space with us and your story, more importantly. So
thank you, Amanda. That was such a sweet intro.
Well, thank you. It's so true. Your story is extremely powerful, and I can't even tell you how honored I am to have you here with me today.
Thank you. Because
your story is absolutely remarkable. So if it's okay with you, we can start from the beginning.
Okay.
We can, whatever that looks like to you.
The biggest transformations that you're referring to, I think we're transforming our entire lives, really. But, I kind of look back and I remember having different friends, like from elementary school to middle school, like getting new friends. So I don't know if I was a bad person, but I felt like it wasn't that. I just kept growing and changing. And so my friends, some of them changed. And then from middle school to high school and high school to college, it was constant growth and change.
Yeah. So you identified with like different friend groups, right?
Yes. Not, I wasn't ever like mean to anybody, or just would, some people you outgrow or you change as you get older, maybe I felt like some people stayed the same age mentally longer than I was willing to do that. I was always interested in stretching my mind and growing and learning. And I guess I would say I'm a lifelong learner. I've learned a lot of things, playing instruments, flying airplanes, computer programming. These are all big things that I mostly taught myself. Anyway, so to get to where we're talking about, this last biggest change started, I'm trying to think, it was about 4, 5, 6, it's 2025 already. 7 years ago. I think, pause for a second. You wanted me to talk about how so about 7 years ago, I had just got out of the shower and I was drying off, looking at myself in the mirror, and I noticed on my chest a few what looked like moles. They looked exactly like little brown dots, like a mole. And I was thinking to myself, I don't remember having moles on my chest. Like, where'd those come from? That's weird. It wasn't like horrible looking. It wasn't like a big rash or anything. It was just, maybe 4 or 5 little brown dots on my chest. But I didn't recognize them. It's funny because you don't think that you really look at your body that closely, but sometimes when you subconsciously,
right, it
registers as different. So luckily, so anyway, I had the foresight, luck, I suppose, to go straight away to a dermatologist. And they looked at them and they said, okay, well, we'll take a biopsy, where they cut one off with the scalpel, and send it to the lab. And think I had one on my leg. They took one from my leg and one from my chest. And that was that. And then they were going to get back to me. And I noticed about 3 or 4 days later, I was examining myself again when I got out of the shower, and they were all gone. All the moles were gone. So it was really like just a 3 or 4 day window that they were there. That was my warning sign, the universe telling me something's wrong.
Which is incredible because
and then they went away. So normally I'm just really shocked that I didn't, when I first saw them, kind of blow it off. And then, a few days later they would have been gone, and I would have thought, oh, well, it was nothing, But
which I think anybody would have.
Yeah, that would be the normal thing. You would just think,
like, oh, it's gone. We're good.
Yeah, it's good. It's all gone now. So whatever it was, oh, well, But they did the biopsy, and then I think it might have taken about a week to get the results back. And I remember, weirdly, they called me on the phone and, and said, asked if it was me. And I said, yes, speaking. And they said, well, we got your biopsy back and it looks like you have lymphoma. And just out of the blue like that, they said that, and I'm like, what? It was funny. Not funny, haha, but,
what? You were just taken back, right?
Taken aback, and then they said, well, we're going to do some more studies. So we'll get back to you, because that's what it looks like so far, but we don't know 100% yet. So then, they called back the next day or 2 days, I can't remember now. And they said, well, we were wrong. You don't have lymphoma. And then for a split second, you're like, oh, no, you have leukemia. So it's like, oh, it was just so bizarre. Like, hey, guess what? You have lymphoma. And guess what? You don't have lymphoma. Oh, good. No, you have leukemia.
And this was all over the phone?
Yes, over the phone. But then it was like, you need to come in so we can, I don't know why I don't know. In my mind, I almost felt like they were excited. Oh, look, we found something. Let's tell them.
And I understand, so
and time was of the essence, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And I hear in your voice, I'm looking at you and you're smiling and you're laughing through all of this, but what was going through your mind at that point in time?
I remember telling this person that I was seeing, they said I have, well, kind of scared, but also, not believing it in a way. Like, well, they're saying that, but they want to do more tests, so we don't, And so I went in and saw them, and I can't remember, exactly. They may have taken another biopsy, and then they started sending me to get all kinds of tests, blood tests and a CAT scan or PET scan or something where you go in a machine and it scans you. And I had to for one of the tests, I had to not eat sugar for 24 hours, which is harder than you think. Yeah. I mean, and then right before you go in the test, they give you a big giant glass of sugar basically to drink. So that, which I thought was weird, but they said, well, cancer loves sugar. And by gulping this big cup of sugar, it will go straight to where the cancer is. So if the cancer is a tumor in part of your body, they will see in the machine the cancer going right to your kidney or liver or wherever. They would actually see it. The cancer would be like, give me that sugar, So I did that test, and they said, well, the sugar didn't go, it just went in your blood, which is consistent because leukemia is blood cancer of the blood is what it is. Wow. So, people have lung cancer or liver cancer, breast cancer. Leukemia is blood cancer, so it's your entire body basically. Anyway, after many tests, they finally wanted me to see a specialist in San Francisco. So I went to UCSF San Francisco and saw the top hematologist there, the one that was the director pretty much of the department. at a major university. So I really was lucky to get in that high. I saw the head hematologist where I was living, but then, they referred me to San Francisco because that was a higher grade, higher level. So I went and met with this person, and they were very kind, set me down, sat in the office with the doctor, and he looked at his paperwork on his desk, and he just said, you have a rare type of chronic leukemia, and there's no cure for it. There's nothing we could do to get rid of it, and you probably have 16 months to live. And that is your brain doesn't know how to process that. You kind of sit there, and my first reaction was like, no, I don't think I want that. Can I decline? Is there I'm not interested.
I think there's something to that, though. I think also ultimately our brains are so much more powerful than we give it credit for. It really is a supercomputer. So whatever you choose to believe, consciously or subconsciously, you're accepting, and so you were like, nope, I don't want that reality. I'm not choosing that one.
It is. And now that I'm saying it to you, it actually is making me think, maybe that did help in my journey, because I was like, no, I'm not. I have a child that depends on me, and I think that was the main thing. I mean, then of course there's other family and friends, but anybody out there that's a parent knows that probably a child is, if you're the parent of a child and you're diagnosed with a terminal illness, that's where you're going to go. It's like, oh my gosh, my poor kid, I can't, they're too young, I'm too young, So I just said no. But then the doctor, said, there's one thing that we can't cure it, but it's not, it's risky. You have about a 50% chance of not surviving the procedure, but we could give you a bone marrow transplant, and that's where the cancer is, in your bone marrow. Your bone marrow is what makes your blood, by the way. So your bone marrow is inside your bones. That makes all your blood and your plasma and all that stuff that's in your blood. It's made in the marrow. Your bone marrow also makes all the cells that make up your body. So your brain cells came from your bone marrow. Your skin cells, eyes, ears, everything, your hair, everything that is you comes from your bone marrow. And the other thing that's in your bone marrow is your DNA. So, hence, like your DNA is what you are, basically. And that creates all the cells that make you what you are. And my first thought was like, how the heck did they do a bone marrow? Like, are they going to open up my bones and take it out and then put other bone marrow in there? I literally asked him that, and he said, no, we don't open up your bones. The procedure is we give you lots of chemotherapy to basically kill the bone marrow that you have in there. And then, assuming we get a donor, we have to find a donor whose DNA is a very close, it's not going to be 100% match, because that would be you, and you're the only one of you. But we could find somebody whose DNA is very close to your DNA. And will have the best results, because the closer they are, I think they called them markers, and I don't remember. I was kind of like I guess, in and out of reality with talking about this even. And I think they said maybe there was 12 markers, 10, I'm not sure, but they said if they could find, 9 out of 10 or 11 out of 12 that matched, that would be about the best they could hope for. So I was like, okay, let's do that. I was like, okay, go do it. Let's do it. The catch is finding a match is not easy. The first thing they want to check is your your kids, if you have kids, or your parents. My parents were already gone. My kid got tested, and my siblings, if you have brothers or sisters, they would check them. They were zero match, and the doctor said that's not unusual because it's 25% chance that they would match and 75% chance they wouldn't. So they didn't, and so I had no match in my family, my child or my siblings. So they said the next step would be to go to a bone marrow bank where people from all over the world who are bone marrow donors, submit to this bank, and then they go and they scan the DNA, I guess, and try to, I don't know how these people, this is really high level science. Anyway, they said, we'll look for a donor in the bone marrow bank, but in the meantime, you must start 7 days a week of chemotherapy. Like today, it was literally like, as soon as you go out of the office, start chemo, because you really, you're going to be on 7 days and then off for a week and then on again and off again, so there'll be little breaks, but.
And you had no time to process
no
this.
time.
It's
just like,
this is what's going to happen. That's it. Let's go. Completely new.
And the chemo is shots in your stomach. Like they said, well, we could give you intravenous, like where you're in a chair for hours and hours, or you can do the shots in your stomach, which is in and out. And I chose that. They kind of said that's better. It hurts to get the shots, but then you're done and you don't have to sit in a chair for 3 hours, So I said, yeah, just do the shots. What the heck? I didn't know how painful it would be, but it was very, very, especially the first, second, third days were okay. But by the time you got to the fifth and sixth and seventh day, it was my tummy where they would do the shots was like a pin cushion and all red and swollen, and it looked like I got attacked by a swarm of bees, because I was getting 2 shots each time. So by the 7th day, I had like 13 pokes, and they were all welts, and so it's not pleasant.
And how did you feel physically? Were you able to eat? Were you able to sleep? What did life look like?
So the chemo, anytime, you're going to do chemo, they give you a drug to take to fight the nausea, because otherwise it makes you very, very nauseous. So for the most part, the pill I would take before going and getting the chemo helped. And that was very helpful. And it kind of, then I wouldn't get sick. I kind of would be tired or not want to eat necessarily, but I was not sick. But a couple times, one time I didn't take the pill. You're supposed to take it like an hour before, or at least 30 minutes before, and I forgot, and I just took it right at the same time, so I was sick. Another time I was getting the chemo shots and realized, oh shoot, I forgot to take the pill. And that day I went home after getting the chemo shots and was on my hands and knees for a couple hours and it's not like the nausea you get from drinking too much or having the stomach flu. It's because usually if you drink too much or have the stomach flu, you throw up and you feel better. That's not the case at least for me, that wasn't the case. It would be like you throw up and you feel just as bad or worse. You throw up again, you feel worse. And it was like no relief whatsoever. It was very, very hard, but it would eventually subside. Anyway, chemo's not something you want to have if you could help it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's really, and the people around you can't even touch the stuff. I can tell, I was on a clinical trial. To fast forward, I eventually, after 5 months of being on chemo 7 days a week for 5 months, they finally said, we found a donor we think we found a donor, so the DNA is a good match, but we still have to talk to them and make sure, because the donor and the recipient both have to have 5 days of shots to prepare their bodies for the transplant. So the donor has 5 days of shots and I have 5 days of shots. And then at the end of that is when they do the switch and put their bone marrow in me.
Yeah. Any idea where the donor was located geographically?
No. So when they said they found a donor, this is kind of really key part to this story is like, my doctor in San Francisco called me into his office and said, well, we finally found a donor. They seem to match. They're willing to do the 5 days. The 5 days of shots, I can't remember what the drug was called, but it makes your bones ache, and apparently like the worst period cramps ever is how you feel probably the last couple days. And what it does is it boosts a certain protein in your bone marrow and it causes your bones to ache. So somebody that was willing to go through that from a stranger, that's quite something.
Beautiful.
Anyway, the doctor called me in the office and said, we found a donor. And, when it comes to bone marrow, gender's not a thing really on one hand, but I just want you to know your donor is female. And at this time I was still, male, I guess, or I identified as male. I had the typical male XY chromosomes. And the doctor said, 5 months of looking for a donor, we finally found one. Now, bear in mind, I only had like 16 months to live and 5 of them had just gone by and I was getting worse symptoms. The leukemia was affecting me. I could hardly walk. I mean, some days I couldn't walk across the room, it was so bad. Like I'd have to stop and catch my breath walking 20 feet. So I kind of like really needed this transplant to happen. So, they said, we found a donor and I just have to tell you, just to be transparent, the donor is female. And so I just want you to know that once, you're going to have her bone marrow and her bone marrow contains her DNA, which is XX chromosomes. And so for the rest of your life, you will have XX chromosomes and any lab tests or anything like that will come back and show you as female. And I just want to make sure you're okay with that. And I hadn't really come out to anybody at that time, but inside my inner voice was literally jumping up and down with joy because I had always felt that. I always felt female. And now I was going to have the actual DNA to match that, so it was so weird. Like you're dying of leukemia, but we're going to give you, XX chromosome DNA for the rest of your life. And if that doesn't kill you, you'll, I don't know what the word is, genetically be female. It's not going to change your body necessarily, really, but it's going to change your cells. Remember, like what I said, your DNA is what makes your cells. So my brain cells, eyes, ears, nose, taste, everything got switched to her DNA, i.e. her cells. So that's what they said. Like if you scrape your skin or whatever and put it in a lab test, it would be female.
That's insane.
So my cells are female.
Yeah.
Same as yours.
Yeah.
Like we have the same DNA.
So walk us through the process of the bone marrow transplant. So we're fast forwarding now. Now you're in the room about to receive this. What did that look like?
Yeah. So I was going to be inpatient hospital for 3 weeks, which I'd never even been in the hospital. So 3 weeks in an isolation ward where it was airlocks on the door and nobody could come in or go out. It was because to prepare the other thing that lives in your bone marrow is your immune system. So they said, we have to kill your bone marrow, at which point you will have zero immune system and zero vaccines in you. And we will give you, at that point, it takes about 2 weeks to kill your bone marrow. And at the end of those 2 weeks, we'll give you that's why you're inpatient, because for those 2 weeks, I was getting, I think, 4 or 5 different chemo drugs around the clock, 24 hours a day chemo for 2 weeks, 24-hour a day chemo for 14 days. I mean, they'd wake me up in the middle of the night and give me more chemo, like every 3 hours, more chemo and they would monitor on the whiteboard, like my blood counts and, red, white, plasma were all almost to zero. They said, you're like going to be on the edge of being dead, basically. And then when you're that close to death, then we put the donors in there and your body has an instinct to survive. So it will suck up. That's how the bone marrow gets in your bones. Your bones will be like, oh my God, here's some marrow and we don't have any more. And now you're given some. They put it in your blood, but because your bones are starving for it, it goes right into your bones. So I thought, like, how do they put it in your bone? And they said, we don't. It's smart enough to know where to go. By taking you that close to death, by emptying out your bone marrow, your bones are like, oh my gosh, here's some. Like, you could imagine, it's cool to think that your bones are thinking that, or, not that they think like we do, but they knew they needed this to survive and to keep the body alive. So they went right in there, Like I said, unfortunately, they did tell me that 50% of people that have this bone marrow don't survive the transplant. And then after so during and immediately after, so the transplant had to be flown in from somewhere. I know that because it came in a styrofoam, like ice chest, and it had the SFO sticker, for the airport for San Francisco. So I knew it came from somewhere. The donor wanted to remain anonymous, so I have no idea where she lives or anything other. My only clue is that since it was flown in, she probably didn't live in San Francisco. But other than that, I have no idea. There's something in my inner voice in my head that thinks she's a New Jersey Italian wife of some. I have no idea why I think that, but it's weird. It's a thought. I don't know, like maybe I was watching The Sopranos at the time, but that's what I figured, that she was like a mob wife in New Jersey, bored, and like, I'll go give bone marrow, do something good.
Or possibly
I have no idea.
Possibly lost somebody.
Yeah, maybe.
And made her change her whole perspective on that, because that is a process. You have to have.
Yeah.
You have to want to do that.
It's not just like donating blood.
Yeah, it's not. You got to go through a whole physical process yourself to do that. So it takes an incredibly strong person to do that and to receive it. To the fact that you were darn near dead that's.
Yeah, they were just.
I already told you so many times. You are such a miracle. You are such a miracle.
So first of all, 50-50 chance that you don't perish right as it's going in you, because your body goes into shock, because it's like, what the hell is this you're putting in me? And that's it. And that happens half the time. And then after they put it in you, then you find out that you have only a 35% chance to live 5 years after your transplant. Because after they put somebody else's DNA in you, it's a lot of things happen. First of all, you have an immune system that doesn't recognize your body, and it starts attacking your body and trying to kill your body, which I told the doctor, well, that's kind of dumb, isn't it? Because if it kills the body, it dies too. So he said, yeah, well, that is dumb, but it's not, that's how it is, So, anyway, that did happen to me, and that's called graft versus host disease, which the only graft versus host disease is something only people that have bone marrow transplants can get. Nobody, it's not contagious. I'm not going to give it to you or anybody. It's not contagious, and you can't get it any other way other than getting bone marrow from somebody else. There are bone marrow transplants that are called auto something, where they actually take the bone marrow out of the patient. If they're not too sick, they can take some of their bone marrow out, then put it back in, I guess. Anyway, they have less complicated because it's their own. But mine was from another person. And so when I got GVHD, the graft versus host disease, the doctor was like, yeah, we expected that. He didn't tell me ahead of time, but when I got about 3 months after the transplant, I looked in the mirror and I looked like a reptile with blotchy red skin all over. And I'm like, what the heck? It's not. And that was the donor's immune system attacking my skin. So guess what he does? So I go on a clinical trial that is more chemo. This time it's chemo pills that I could take. It was a clinical trial, and I went on it, and I had to get these pills from the doctor. You couldn't buy them in the store or anything. And I was to take them every day. And I was on the clinical trial for 2 years. So I was taking chemo pills every day for 2 years. When they would come to give me the pills, the nurse would have a mask on and gloves on, and the pills are in a paper bag, and she's like holding the bag by the edge and handing it to me with gloves, rubber gloves on. And they wouldn't, like, I had someone with me who was, driving the car, because sometimes I couldn't drive. So they said, and also had roommates, and they said, don't let anybody else touch these pills. They cannot touch them because they're chemo, and would be bad for them to handle them. Like, you have to take them. I'm like, okay, so that's can't
not
touch
scary.
them, but I have to swallow them.
That's not
that
scary.
Seems weird. Okay. But it's supposed to help me, but it could be very dangerous to them to even touch the pill. And anyway, did that for 2 years, and it didn't go away. It didn't get better. So then they put me on something called photopheresis, where they insert a port into your chest, which I still have, and they hook you up to a machine, and it takes all your blood out. And they put some drugs in your blood, and then they radiate it and put it under ultraviolet lights, and then they put it back in you, and you're supposed to be good to go for another few weeks. And repeat first I was doing it 4 times a month, and then twice a month, and then once a month. And that's where I'm at now, once a month. Actually, even it's down to like every 6 weeks now. So we're trying to wean off and see if my body is going to be okay. But this is a long process, and you've heard this before, like having cancer is a long time sometimes, years. It's not like any other, like flu or something, or you're sick for a week or 2 and then you get better. This is like on and on and on, But the silver lining part is, I was so happy to have female DNA. And when I would go for my checkups, they would do blood tests, and the nurse would look at the results. And I remember it wasn't instantaneous. They said the donor's bone marrow would take maybe a month or 2 months to take over, so to speak, my whatever was left of my bone marrow. And it was about after a couple months when the nurse was looking at my blood test, and she said, yay, she said, all right, your blood test came back, and it's 100% female, because before that it was like 80%, 90%, because there was still a little bit of the old bone marrow. And then all of a sudden, after a couple months, the nurse was all excited. You're 100% female now.
What was going through your head at that
I
point?
was like, again, I hadn't come out really yet, but I was so happy to hear that. Like one of the greatest things I've ever heard, like I'm still here. The transplant didn't get me. The cancer didn't get me. The GVHD didn't get me yet so far. I mean, that's still, but not only all of that, but now I'm 100% genetically female. And okay, so then now fast forward a little bit. I know this is talking a long time, but
Okay.
it's kind of important. So a couple of years after the transplant, I just started feeling like my clothes, I wanted to wear feminine clothes. I wanted to wear makeup and do my hair longer, everything. And I was doing this just at home, for myself, basically. And then not really sharing it with anybody else. But every time I would do it, I would feel so much more joy and happiness. And really, this I remember as long as I can remember, kindergarten, the kindergarten teacher, when they separated the boys and girls, I went to the girls' side and the kindergarten teacher was like, "Why are you going there?" I'm like, "Because you said, you said boys go over there and girls go over here. So I went over here."
Subconsciously, you've been
I'm 5 years old.
identifying.
I'm like, I don't get, what do you mean? I don't even know what gender is. I just feel like I'm that gender. And that was the first really? Like, I don't want to be, they're so, anyway, so that, I just remember, there's all these stories. I remember also being in like 3rd or 4th grade and being in my bedroom and taking a sheet of binder paper and filling it with girl names that I wanted, because the name I was given at birth was a boy name and I hated it. And I wrote out about 20 names that were girl names that I wished I had. And of course, I couldn't do any. I was a kid and didn't even know what it meant, but I don't know why I did it. It's just like, that's weird. I don't know. Now I look back and it's, so all my life I felt that, and then in high school I remember writing a paper about how the clothes that the girls were able to wear were so much better than what the boys wore. I was mad. I wrote a whole essay about it's not fair that girls can wear dresses or pants, and all different kinds of tops and do their hair all different kinds of ways, but boys had to basically wear jeans and a t-shirt. And I'm like, that sucks, because I want to be able to express myself like how I am, how I feel like the girls, and I'm not allowed to because, unfairly was born the wrong way, I guess. So when I look back and then fast forward to the transplant, and now I have female DNA, I still was like, okay, I have female DNA. And I'm starting to notice changes in how I felt. Like I pretty much played at being a boy male, my whole life. But I'm also, older. So I'm at a stage of life where I'm getting ready to retire from work. And I guess I was feeling like if I can't pretend anymore, it got so hard. And I remember telling my partner, like, I can't pretend anymore. This is how I want to dress, and this is how I am, and this is what feels right to me. Because I'm not playing dress up. It's how I feel, It's hard to explain, and I know a lot of people might not get it. They still think trans people are just role playing or something, but it's more than that. It's inside, and sometimes it's your essence and your how your brain works, how you look at things and see things. And, all my life I was like teased about being too gentle and too sensitive. And I know I hate to get into the, because this is debatable, I suppose, but like I would say female traits, I hate saying that, but, there's some truth to it, I think. I had them my whole life, and people would tease me about it because like, you're a boy, but you act like a girl. I get that all the time. Like your body language, your everything, or that I was gay, but I never really felt that weirdly. And, I think most people hopefully know by now that gender identity and sexual orientation are not connected in any way. So you can be a trans woman and still be sexually attracted to women. You could be a trans man and still be attracted to men, or women. I mean, whatever gender you are, you can be attracted to any other gender. It's not like they go like, oh, you're a trans woman, so you must like men. And I actually have people ask me that all the time. I'm like, oh, so now that you're a trans woman, you like men now? And I'm like, well, not really. I mean, some of them are nice, I guess. But as far as like being intimate, I don't feel that, I still feel, as far as whatever the word you want to call sexual attraction to me is still toward females. So I talked to my therapist about that. I'm like, and my therapist was like, just don't even go there and don't put labels on things. Just you are who you are and you like who you like. And I love that. And that's really, I think, good advice for anybody. Just like who you like and be who you are, we're so hung up on like, oh, you're gay, you're bisexual, you're lesbian, you're, this and that. And really, we don't have to do that. You can be who you want to be and you can like who you want to like. And so that was my therapist's advice, and I've taken it to heart. And I'm like, I like who I like, I mean, I've met men that I think are really cool and I like them and they're, easy to talk to and be around and stuff. But, I guess I haven't met one that I feel sexually attracted to yet. So that part has not changed.
So the process of transition, what did that look like for you? Did you, what that day that you woke up and you decided, this is the day that I am going to not only just put this thought into action and start,
Have you ever gone to a party where maybe they, it was at a party, it was at a smallish party, and we had lots of wine, but I'm pretty sure we had wine or champagne or something like that. But we only had enough glasses. We only had enough glasses for each person to have one glass. We had those red cups, that are the party cups.
The solo cups.
The red solo cups. But I don't know, there was like, say, 8 people and there was 8 cups. And so somebody had the idea, we had a Sharpie and somebody said, let's write our names on the cups. And when it came to me, I was like a light bulb went off over my head and I put my new name on my cup. I had chosen this name, which is similar to my old name, but not, but the female version, I suppose you could say. And I told everybody at the party, this is my new name from now on, please use it. And that was how I came out. So these people were all very dear, close friends. And they were just like, oh, okay, cool. And the rest of the night, they called me that. And I think before that, was talking to my partner about it and started to wear feminine clothes around the house, but I still hadn't done it in public yet. Then after the party, like the day after the party, one of the guests gave me a couple dresses. It was very sweet. They didn't fit, but the thought was awesome. But they were so like, just, okay. Like I just said, this is my new name and this is how I feel. And they were like, okay, you know, and then the next day, here's some dresses that don't fit me anymore. I thought if you might like them or something. I was so touched, you know, it's like so sweet. So that was my coming out. And then those were the first people. And then I still, for a while, would only dress as myself at home. But I started pretty quickly to, you know, to do it in public and to go out, you know. And I would say probably the hardest part of doing that, it's nerve-wracking. It's scary. You can imagine, like, it's very scary. And this kind of where you come in, Amanda, because, you know, I started to, you know, see you outside, you know, how can I say, like, we met and you said, I can't believe you are such an inspiration. I can't, you know, I said, why? I don't get, nobody ever said I was an inspiration. I don't think ever before that. And this is what I had to go home. I was like, I said, thank you. And then I went home and I was like, Amanda says I'm an inspiration and I don't get it. Like, I mean, it's good. I know it was a compliment but what does, you know, she mean exactly? And I even went and talked to my therapist about it. And I think maybe you said about my authenticity and living my true self, and my authentic self took bravery.
It does.
And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm brave. Like I never in a million years thought of myself as brave, ever. Like, I'm not brave. I mean, brave is like somebody running into a burning building, you know, and like firemen are brave and soldiers are brave, you know. I never thought I was brave. But in a way, now, after what you said to me, I thought, I am brave. I mean, and actually, I kind of like think some alpha males that may think, you know, they're so brave and tough would never go out in public in a dress and makeup. They would be scared, you know, so scared. Trying to keep my language clean here. Not, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm kind of making light of it. I'm just saying, like, yeah, I guess it is an act of bravery to be yourself sometimes.
It absolutely is. All the time.
All the time.
All the time. Because in order to be our true authentic self, you have to quiet the other voices that tell you that you're doing something wrong, or what are they going to say? What are they going to think? Yes. What are they going to do? So to fight all of those internal voices and continue to move forward in your true authentic self is extremely brave for everybody. But especially when your physical, people don't understand your physical reality, you know what I mean? Like your body, and you might, you know, have certain parts that make you one gender, but you don't feel that. And so you start dressing more feminine and all these other things. Like, that is extremely brave for you to do that, because that is who you wanted to be. That is what you felt like you needed to do.
Yes.
And not everybody has the strength to do that. So.
No, I know there's like people that might say, I want to wear a purple t-shirt, but you know, somebody might laugh at me for wearing a purple. It's that times 100. But on the other hand, like, I can't see dressing any other way. I'm not going to like pretend anymore, you know? So I think the bravery comes from the fear, or it's like I do or die kind of thing. Like, I know, not to sound morbid or whatever, but it's like I don't want to live any other way, literally. So, you know, I guess it is brave, but it's also survival. But But it's so worth it. I would tell anybody, it's so worth it. And, most people, I would say too, are going to, most people are going to accept you for who you are. I would say that, I don't know. I mean, I can't say, maybe there may be a couple people in my life that have kind of drifted away because of, I don't know if it's because of this or not, maybe it is, but they probably weren't meant to be in my life if this is what caused it,
Yeah.
So you have to be willing to, like, the rewards of being yourself are so much greater than the risks, I think. And yes, you may lose somebody, but if you're going to lose them because of you being yourself, then what's the point? Yeah.
They're not supposed to be there.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of being whoever the hell you want to be, is that it's going to weed out the ones that don't belong, and it's going to bring the ones that are supposed to be there closer.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It kind of works. It's a positive thing.
Yeah.
You're not going to lose any true, real friends, because the ones you're going to lose, only liked you for the image that they thought you were or whatever, and not yourself. And usually when I come out, the people that I came out to, and I still would say, is that I'm not a different person. Like, the person that you met 10 years ago is still the same. I still like the same things. Everything about me is exactly how it was. The only thing different is my clothes are different. And, I might look a little bit different, but my personality, it's not like I was, kind to animals before and now I kick them or something, No, my kindness to animals has remained, and my likes and dislikes have remained. I'm the exact same person. So if you knew me then, you know the new me. And
if anything,
you may have to get used to me looking different, but I'm the same person.
Yeah. If anything, you're a happier person now,
Yes.
right? You're fully
Yes.
living in your true, authentic self.
Yes.
So,
And there's a thing that comes with this that people that aren't trans would maybe not understand, but we have a thing called gender dysphoria, is what you have when you feel like you're in the wrong body. And it is a miserable, horrible feeling. Like, you literally want to not be alive, because it's like your consciousness is looking at the vessel and saying, this is not right. And I don't want this. So I'd rather just be gone. It's that bad. And unfortunately, that is what happens. And especially bad when they feel like they're going to be in trouble or shamed or whatever for thinking this way, which is why conversion therapy, where they try to convince you that you're not that, is proven to be very dangerous and hurtful and causes an increase in suicides.
yeah.
So it's been banned. Like, it's so bad that they banned it, Like, you can't take someone that feels like they're the wrong gender, you can't tell them they're wrong, because they'll just get worse.
Yeah, then they think there's something wrong with them. And
Yeah.
that's opening up a whole new can of worms of you're just confirming that I am not right.
That I'm flawed.
That I'm broken, that I'm, there's something wrong with me. And that's terrible.
Yeah. So, like, you either end your own life or you live in misery.
And either way, I mean, it's kind of the same thing if you think about it.
It is.
There's
It's
no,
like,
if you're physically, if your heart's still beating, but you're not living,
yeah.
you're just existing, and that's not a good place to be.
Choice.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've noticed since, coming out and being my true self, it's been so rewarding, and all my real friends are my favorite story is coming out to a friend I've known for 30 years, and I've been very afraid and kept he kept asking me, to get together for lunch, and I kept saying no and blowing him off and like saying no, I can't that weekend, and then I would ghost him and not, and then after me ghosting him for like months, he never gave up, and he kept saying, "What's going on?" And finally he said, "I think I might know what's going on." He wasn't sure, but he said, "I think I kind of know." And I was like, thought to myself, okay, this sucks, So I just, I did it by text. I texted him a big long, about as long as you could make one text message, explaining to him the transplant and the DNA switching and my lifelong feeling of this feminine identity. And so I came out to him, said it all, and then I saw the little dots dump, like when somebody's texting. I guess, I don't know if Android does it, but on iPhones you get the little dots bouncing up and down, and that they're typing, and I'm like, oh God, what's he gonna say? And his text back to me was like, "Cool, so when do you want to get lunch?" And I was like, oh my God. It was like, okay. So nothing. I'm happy for you.
Yeah.
This other one I came out to said, "Are you happy?" And I said, "Immensely." And they said, "Good, that's great. Let's go. When are we going to get some beers?" And
isn't there something to that? I think we make things in our head so much bigger than they actually need to be or are to anybody else. And I'm just so happy to hear that there were so much support and love around you. I know the moment that I met you, I loved you. I was like, you're my friend. I'm claiming you. And every time I seen you, you were very quiet. When I first met you, you were quiet, you were to yourself, and now seeing you, like I'm witnessing your transition, I guess you can say, of, you stepping into more of who you are and this beautiful feminine energy. And,
yes.
I'm just here. I love you. And I hope you know that. And
I know it. And I feel the same to you. Exactly. And weirdly, like, I don't know, we were talking maybe before we were recording but some people are just meant to be in your life,
Yeah.
And that you have an instant connection. Like, a couple other mutual friends we have, that we all seem to like just, we haven't known each other for years and years, really, but we feel like we've known each other a lifetime. Yeah,
time does not exist.
Yeah,
especially when we're together. We're just like having so much fun, and we feel so comfortable, and there's so much love.
And then,
I do have a question though.
Yes. What
would you tell someone who's facing a massive identity shift or a health crisis right now? If someone was going through it right now, what advice would you give them? What would you tell them?
I guess, can you be more specific? Or I'm not sure, like, if it was a health crisis, I would say
either or. You can pick.
You need to
something similar that you
need to be proactive on health issues. I don't, usually anything to do with health, the sooner you can get it looked at, the better.
Yeah, you jumped on it, honestly.
Like, I did.
There was only like a 3-day gap that you had those little moles, which is extremely eye-opening, because anybody would think, oh, there's this, they went away. Oh, nothing.
They were just, I must have ate something. But like, I mean, eventually I would have, because I did start having other symptoms. My energy was going down. I was getting really bad leg cramps and night sweats and low energy. Like, I mean, not even be able to walk from one end of the house to the other without stopping,
Yeah, so your body
so I'm like, something is not right,
Yeah, your body was trying to communicate something with you.
But sometimes if you wait to that point, you're just making it harder to get better. So the earlier they know, the more options you have.
So yeah, prevention and awareness of what your body is trying to tell you.
Yeah, so any medical things, my advice would be get it looked at as soon as possible. It's better to say, oh, it was nothing, I know, though, that's healthcare in this country. I mean, getting it looked at is not easy, and it could be expensive, and your insurance might not pay for,
Yeah.
That's another story,
Yeah.
but if you can, if you have insurance from work or if you're on your parents' insurance or partner's insurance, get it looked at as soon as you can.
And what about an identity crisis? What advice would you give to somebody who doesn't feel at home in their skin?
I think you have to address that too. And it may be very scary. I would say, well, it is, not maybe, it is very scary, but the rewards far outweigh any of the negative, because you're talking about a lifetime, a life-changing thing that I think I mentioned before, gender dysphoria, but there's also gender euphoria, which is like better than any other high you've ever experienced. It's like you feel like you're floating across the room. I mean, it is the most amazing feeling. And I don't know if there's anything comparable or relatable to people that haven't experienced it. Other trans people know what you're talking about. Gender euphoria is just somebody, like when I go to the grocery store and checker calls me miss, or, like, how's it going, miss? Are you having a nice day? Something like that. Or paper, or miss, paper or plastic, or Mrs. or ma'am. I mean, I don't like that so much, but because I'm not that old, but, it still works. It's like, excuse me, ma'am, or like today I went into a restaurant for lunch with a lady friend, and the hostess is like, how are you ladies doing? And what can I get you ladies? And just little things like that so if you're considering it, I just want to tell you the euphoria is through the roof, and you'll be so happy to do it. And conversely, if you don't follow through and you go and get called sir, and it's like a knife in your heart,
Yeah.
So it's scary. It is scary. I grant you that. But also, you probably need a support group. I was super lucky in that person that I was with, their kids, my child, all the people, my closest friends and family were just so supportive. And I'm very lucky in that regard. And so some people might not have that, and they might even have parents. If you're young and live with your parents, that could be like scary. I mean, they might kick you out of the house or something. So I don't know. In that case, you still need to do it, but I don't know what the right way would be,
I think everybody has to figure that out
that part
out for themselves, but ultimately just go for it. Go for what makes you truly happy, because at the end of the day, again, those people that are not supposed to be there, regardless if they're blood or not, are going to fall off. It's scary, and I think many of us have been in a place in our lives where we just felt so alone. But I feel like that is part of our growing process, and eventually you will find people who love you and will be there and support you no matter what. So
yes. And I think that, like, if it's a case where you're young and it's your parents, that it's a personal thing, and you have to try to, maybe they just don't understand, and if you try to educate them or get somebody else, like from one of the organizations that are out there to talk to, maybe they just don't. It's not like there's people that like might say, quote, I don't get it, or I don't understand. They may not be bad. They might not be against you. It is something that, maybe they just need to learn about it a little bit, and then they'll be fine,
Yeah. Okay.
I also, just quickly, like, I've noticed sometimes I try to, if I sense somebody not being sure or whatever of me, sometimes, and again, you have to trust your instincts, like, don't do anything dangerous or risky. But sometimes I feel like maybe I'll just be nice to them, smile at them, or say, yeah, how's it? Oh, yeah, I really like this. Do you like, some little small talk thing? You'd be surprised how many of them are like, oh, yeah, cool. And then they're almost like, you almost feel they're accepting you because maybe they just weren't sure. Maybe they had never met a trans person before. And so and people fear what they don't know. Mm-hmm. So if you smile and say, hi, look, I'm just a regular person. I mean you no harm. Most people, I think, are good. And maybe they'll say, well, I don't get it, but it's fine, live and let live, and that's cool. They won't be mean to you or anything necessarily. There are some that might be, but I do have to say in 3 years, I've not encountered that, knock on wood.
And I hope that you never do. You're such a kind, sweet person.
Oh, thank you.
And I thank you so much for being here with me today, sharing this space and sharing your extremely brave and unique story at that. I can't tell you what it means for me to have you as my guest today. And as we wrap up this conversation, I just want to take a moment and acknowledge the quiet bravery that it takes to tell your truth, especially when the truth includes pain, transformation, and deep personal change. While you want to be anonymous or remain anonymous today, your voice was fully heard and full of honesty, resilience, and humanity. And it speaks volumes.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. And if her story moved you, let this be a reminder. We never really know what someone is carrying. So move gently, ask better questions, and remember that healing isn't always loud. It's often slow, tender, and fiercely private. Thank you for listening. Are there any final words that you'd like to say?
Kind of like what you said there. I think everybody has something that hurts inside. I think, we don't know what other people are going through. And, sometimes we judge prematurely, and we may not know that something terrible may have happened to them in their life earlier that day or even years before that they're still dealing with. And just to give them grace and, not to judge them because we don't know what they're going through.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Once again, thank you for listening. Until next time, keep honoring your own soul story, whatever chapter you're in. I've learned that there's no shame in owning every chapter of your story, even the messy ones. If you're ready to share yours, I'd be honored to hold space for you here on Soul Stories. You can find me at Own Your Soul Story on Instagram. Once again, that's Own Your Soul Story. I look forward to helping you find your voice again.